Welcome to Limited Lives, the podcast where we review short games and give big opinions. In this episode, we are covering Bionic Bay, a new platformer game co-developed by Marina and Psychoflow Studio. I'm Dennis, and if I had swap teleport abilities in real life, I'd probably swap right into oncoming traffic. And I'm joined by...
I'm Phil, and my favorite large language model is Claude.
I don't know how that's relevant. My name is Matt, and it's nice to be here.
Okay.
I'm kind of living. I'm kind of like robot AI future. Okay, I'm just letting people know.
Where do you work again, Phil?
Let's not talk about that.
Yeah, that threw me off, but I like it. So as I said, yeah, we're going to be covering Bionic Bay, and inspired by this game, I wanted to ask you guys what the most frustrating or rage-inducing game you've ever played is, or just one that comes to mind.
I like this question.
Let's start with you, Phil.
I'm gonna kind of cheat and say two. One is definitely any of the Mega Man games, like back in the day, the NES, Mega Man 2 specifically, Flash Man. If anybody knows it out there, you know what I'm talking about. And that's just rage-inducing. But also just the Souls games. Playing the original Souls games. That's like the original. They used to rage me to the point where I haven't beat a couple of them. Just
what do you mean
by
rage? Sorry, what do you mean by the original Souls games?
Well, I'm talking like now there's like so many Souls likes or whatever. So I'm just talking
about
mean
like
Dark Souls
1?
Are you talking Demon Souls?
Yeah, Dark Souls 1, Demon Souls, Dark Souls 1, and like Dark Souls 2, I think, up until that point.
Did you play Demon Souls? I didn't know you played that.
Yeah, I did. I did. Yeah, I had it. I didn't beat it because of my rage. And
did you play it before you had played Dark Souls?
Yes, I got it before. It was like watching Breaking Bad before anyone knew about it. You know what I mean?
You're one of the few, yeah.
I was like the first person to buy it.
Play that game.
Yeah, and it wasn't like I didn't really know what to make of it at the time. Still, it was just like this thing is making me.
I think a lot of people didn't.
I'm similar. I played that. That was my first Souls game, and
oh really?
I didn't quite get it. Like I never got into it. I played it. I shared an apartment with two other guys, and one of them owned it, and we shared a PlayStation. So, yeah, I kind of fooled around with it, but it didn't like click. Dark Souls is when it clicked for me.
Yeah. They really perfected the formula with Dark Souls, I think.
Yeah.
See if they do that with Night Rain.
The original Dark Souls was pretty frustrating, though. Like
I
just think of like, especially like at the time, because you weren't used to like just suddenly getting like stabbed from behind randomly when you don't expect it, or falling off of a
getting basically two-shot all the time. And now unfortunately, fortunately or unfortunately, like everything is so, as soon as a game comes out, there's already like 20 ways to like maximize, what's the word, min-max your game experience like immediately. So like when that came out, there was nothing, and it was like it was hard, and it was nothing.
Yeah, the age of internet has really changed the way we can approach a game that's difficult, I would say.
Yeah. So how about you, Matt? What's your frustrating game?
I also chose two, but I chose two because I wanted to choose a modern game and like a retro game. And I guess
I did the same.
Phil similar. So my modern game was one that I played recently. I had mentioned it before, and that was Super Mario Brothers Wonder, which really that game goes from being really easy to being like hellishly difficult on some levels. They're just like rage-inducing difficult. So there's definitely a few moments when I played that where I wanted to break my controller in two. The other one was back when I was a kid. So I was a little bit too young for like the difficult NES games. The only game I really remember playing on NES was the original Mario Brothers, but I was too young to even really care about trying to finish it, even though that was a hard game. But I just like playing like the first few levels over and over again. That's all I really did. But the game that really, when I was old enough to really get into it, I remember Mario Kart 64 really, really pissed me off when I was a kid, because that game very, very clearly cheats against you when you're playing like the hardest difficulty. And I just remember being like more angry than I've ever been when I was playing that game on the hardest difficulty, trying to beat everything. I wanted to, beat everything in the game. So yeah, those are my two games.
That was the turning point when I started to dislike Mario Kart, though. When it started to having that like aiding the people losing too much, and they're just getting
right.
It always did that in the Super Nintendo one, but it was not as extreme.
But
the blue shell.
The earlier games had the rubber banding, which is where it like that mechanic that makes like no matter how well you're doing,
yeah,
it allows
really
the PC characters to catch up to you no matter what, just to create the illusion of like competition.
Yeah, I remember having like just being very close to winning, and then suddenly some bullshit would happen, and I would lose.
Lightning bolt, blue shell.
Yeah. And it's just
that's a whole different aspect of it. Is the blue shell
items,
and the bullet.
I don't think they had blue shell in the Mario Kart 64. I don't think that was.
I don't think so.
They had other shit.
Just red and green.
Yeah, maybe not. Okay.
Yeah, that's a good one.
How about you?
For me, I was thinking Ninja Gaiden as my classic game. Not, I guess you could also say the Xbox version as well, but I was thinking more the Nintendo one. But they're both equally pretty frustrating. I always think about how there was so many enemies that would like run into you, and there was I forget what they call it when you get hit and you knock back.
Right.
There was so much knockback in that game that you'd constantly get knocked off of ledges if you just like, and also enemies would respawn just from like the slightest movement of the screen, and they'd constantly be like flying into you, and it was so annoying. At least you had unlimited continues in that game, I think. But modern game, this is something I played more recently, a couple months ago, is the first Kingdom Come Deliverance. And this game, partly because of the design, but also the jankiness. If you try to do like stealth in that game, which I did try to do, like take down like a fortress or something, the jankiness often interrupts you and screws everything up. And also because you have limited saves that are determined by an item, like a usable item that you have a limited amount of.
I thought we were past that as like a gaming community.
Yeah, it's a stupid.
Right.
I don't really like that. There's mods that remove that. I think that's one of the first mods that came out for that.
As
game.
there should be. Yeah.
I'm not sure how they do it in Kingdom Come 2, but it seems like that game fixed a lot of the problems with the first game. I haven't tried it yet though. But yeah, so there were so many times where I'd be like sneaking up on somebody and then like backstabbing them only for it to like weirdly miss, or they somehow like moonwalk into me. Like it's just weird like ways that they would detect me when they shouldn't. Super frustrating. And I remember losing a lot of hours just repeating this same area over and over again. I just couldn't get the game to function the way it was supposed to.
You're like a
Bionic, just like fucking Bionic Bay.
Yeah, so Bionic Bay is also a frustrating at times game. But let's get into it. So Bionic Bay came out on April 17th this year, and it was co-developed by Marina and Psycho Flow Studio. So Marina is actually just a single man from Finland, Juhana Millis. He's developed two other games that I found, which are just like mobile games called Badland and Badland 2. And Psycho Flow Studio doesn't have any other games developed, but they seem to specialize in like game engine technical stuff. What I actually found out is they met on Reddit. Psycho Flow Studio, they're from Taiwan, and Marina is from Finland. But I guess Psycho Flow was posting some kind of the swap mechanic. They were like showcasing the swap mechanic on Reddit, and Marina, or Juhana, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that, probably butchering it. He like messaged them, and then they started collaborating on making this game. So
Cool.
Johanna Millis is the creative director on this game. He did all the art design and level design, and I think kind of the whole scope of the game, whereas Cycleflow handled all of the like cool mechanics and technical stuff and visual effects and that kind of thing, like particle effects and that kind of stuff. So yeah, so they collaborated, and that's where Bionic Bay was born.
Interesting. I didn't know
Yeah,
that.
pretty cool. Yeah, so that's a little bit of background on Bionic Bay. Why don't we get into how long it took you to beat and what are your thoughts on it briefly? Let's start with Matt.
Okay, so Bionic Bay, I'm going to answer both questions in this, but imagine like playing Limbo or Inside, which are like great games, classics, I would say, in the indie genre. But imagine those games with a lot more frustrating puzzles and them being 10 hours long instead of 4. They're not so great at that point, and that's exactly what Bionic Bay was to me. I think this game falls into that category that we've talked about before, where it makes for really good screenshots and GIFs, but the actual game doesn't really hold up overall. And I think the biggest problem for me was the length, being around 10 hours or so.
All right, how about you, Phil?
It took me about 9 hours, and yeah, kind of like it's you said, good screenshots and GIFs, and I thought the same thing. Like it can make a good trailer out of this game pretty well. There's a couple other games I think we played that also fall in that like good showcasing promotional type of game. But similarly, like it's an interesting thing, and if I had to think about food, it's like it needs a little bit more spice, but what's there has potential to be a good dish. It just needs something. It needs something, and the length too. Like if it was any longer than it was, I think I would have like hated it honestly. But it was still a bit long too for me for what the game is, because it doesn't add that the depth of some other things like the story and other points to really kind of take it to the next level. So yeah, that's kind of like what I think about it. It's got potential.
All right, I think I'm kind of closer to Phil on this, but I think I'm warmer than both of you on the game. It took me close to 10 hours, between 9 and 10 hours. I did mess around with the challenge mode a bit, but I think this game is really creative, and it keeps you pretty engaged by kind of doling out different abilities and game mechanics throughout its length. So for me, it didn't seem too long. My only issue was the world and art design being pretty interesting most of the way through. I wish there was a bit more attention paid to the plot. Also, it is frustrating as hell. Yeah, at
Interesting.
times.
Okay.
But I overall pretty like hot on it. I liked it a lot.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds like we had quite a spectrum here of opinions on it.
Yeah, we do,
which is rare for us. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm liking that. All right, why don't we get into the gameplay? And Matt, can you tell us about that?
Yeah. So it's basically very, very similar to Limbo or Inside. As I was saying, it's a 2D side scroller puzzle game, and all the puzzles are based on basically they're all based on physics and a few tricks that you have, like switching. You can hit an object and switch places with it. That's like the main one that they do from the very beginning. And then there's a few others like stopping time or slowing down time. And then another one that comes at the closer to the end where you can like shift gravity in one direction or another. And I guess there's a couple others actually, but it's a little bit confusing because you kind of switch characters partway through the game and switch back. At least it seems to be the case. It's not really explained as far as I know.
I was gonna say, I was like, is it a different person? It's not. Yeah, I don't know. But
well, one seems to be a robot. One seems to be a robot, while the other seems to be a person that picks up these things that gives them these abilities, and it's a bit strange. But anyway, yeah, you just go through these essentially these levels. I think there's 24 or 25 levels in the game. and you're just going with it. There's a lot of exploration. I wouldn't say exploration. I would say traversal, I guess, across these lands. Like there's rolling, jumping, like a platform. There's a big platforming aspect to it as well, aside the puzzles. So you actually have to, and there's a lot of precise platforming in some places where you have to be really careful. You're going to die a lot. You die a lot in the game, and you come back. It's, like I said, it's very similar to Limbo. So that's essentially how I would describe the gameplay. We don't really know. There's not really like nothing in terms of, as you mentioned, like what you're doing. Like there's no really driving factor of what you're trying to accomplish in the game. You're just doing it because you're doing it, type of thing. Yeah.
I think, I don't know, I felt like it kind of, the very basic drive to me just seems like you're trying to escape or from where you are.
I'm not even sure. It does open with like a Half-Life-ish type of thing where you're trying to do, like, your people trying to do some experiment on something and it goes horribly wrong. There's a big explosion, and then you find yourself in like this weird factory or something. I don't know. It's really hard to tell exactly, but yeah. It's not clear. It's not clear who your character was exactly or what you're trying to do, but I guess it could be trying to escape. Who knows?
I have some information about that I can get into in the story, but yeah, we'll get into that when we get there.
Yeah.
Yeah, gameplay wise, we mentioned the swap mechanic, which is basically what started this game. Like that mechanic is what inspired.
And it's very clear that's what started the game, because it's heavily
the main
used.
Mechanic.
Yeah.
But there are a bunch of other powers you do get.
Yeah, you get more. I guess my issue is mostly with the gameplay and a little bit with the vibe, but mostly with the gameplay and the fact that it just felt like the first 6 hours of this game are like 4 hours too long, in my opinion. Like you really don't get, there's not a lot of new stuff that you get within those first 6 hours. It takes a long time before you really start seeing new things. Like first, as like basically you're just using that swap mechanic for a lot of that first 6 hours, and it gets quite repetitive in my mind. Like I think one of my issues is that the puzzles to me weren't all that interesting a lot of the time. Like there were some, though. I'll definitely credit. There were a few puzzles where I was like, wow, that was really cool. I really enjoyed that one. But there was a lot where like, this is just annoying and frustrating. I know what the solution is. It's just pulling it off, type of thing, until
right. Well, it is like technically like a puzzle platformer. It's not puzzle platformer in the way that like you have to like think about how to go about this. There might be a couple of times where that happened, where you'd have to like think what's the best like plan of action here, but it's usually more of a skill issue. Yes,
very much based on skill,
and very much like, I don't know, for example, like Celeste or Super Meat Boy, like which those games are a bit more focused on that. I think you have to, but you get to like restart immediately. Like dying is not a big deal in any of these games, and I think that's very important. Like they expect you to die frequently and trial and error and just try again. There were so many times in this game where I got past an area just kind of by sheer luck or randomness.
You can actually die sometimes, and like your body makes it to the point, and it like just checkpoints you ahead, I guess. So
put you ahead. Right. That happened to me a couple times.
Like corpse ended up on the checkpoint.
I was like, oh, okay, well, finish that. But
I did get
frustrated though.
There are checkpoints, like you're saying. There's like these checkpoints, but there were a few times when it felt like most of them were pretty like right in front of that immediate thing you're doing. But sometimes it felt like you had to do like 3 or 4 or 5 things, and then like I would die, and it's like you have to start way back. You know what I'm saying? Like
it was
a handful of times, and I was like, yo, like, so that really kind of annoyed me. And you're right.
Sorry.
Oh, I was just gonna say like about the precise platforming of this game, because I first started playing this game not knowing anything about it, and I had to like wake up because I was kind of lazily playing, and then I was like, oh, I really have to be like precise on this platforming here. This is not like a lackadaisical, walk in a park kind of situation.
Yeah, it's probably I guess I might classify it more as a precision platformer than a puzzle platformer in a lot of ways, like, or a little bit of a mix.
Yeah, definitely a mix. I mean, that's a good point. I think maybe Limbo is probably more heavy on the puzzle side, while this is definitely has more of a precision platforming element to it.
Well, the developer said two of his main inspirations for this game were N Plus, if you remember that.
I haven't played that.
N Plus was on PSP and DS. I had it for DS, which is basically just like you play a little pixel ninja guy who just like goes through kind of like Super Meat Boy-esque levels. And the controls for that and the way that the character can move, it reminds me a lot of how the scientist guy in this game moves. The other one he mentioned was a game called Out of This World, or Another World. It had two titles, I think, depending on the region you were in.
Oh, that like really old school game.
Yeah, it was on Super Nintendo, 3DO. Yeah. I have it on PC also. I replayed that game like 2 years ago.
Kind of like
really
a
cool.
Classic, I think.
Yeah, that game has sort of like original Prince of Persia-esque controls, or like Oddworld, like that style of 2D platforming. It's more like slow and methodical though, but cool game. And that game also starts out with like a science experiment gone wrong and being teleported to somewhere. So definitely see the inspiration there. I read in an interview on DualShockers website where they interviewed the director, and he did bring up how Limbo and Inside often are comparisons, but I guess it wasn't intentional. Like that wasn't where he was headed, but it started to go that way during development. And
interesting. I mean, that's definitely the first thing that came to my mind. Yeah.
I replayed Limbo like last year, so it is still fresh in my mind. Maybe that was this year, but that was my first thought.
I think Limbo is just a lot slower moving, but the game is also a lot shorter. But like I said, more puzzle focused. Well, this is.
But speaking of that, though, like I think one of the really strong points of this game that I think could be overlooked is that the way that the main character controls is so like tight, and
so yeah,
he has like really interesting like interesting move set. Like as he starts out the game like just slow and prodding, but then you instantly get like super powered up, so he can do like run fast, do big jumps, dive roll, and then he has a dive that he can do in midair, which totally doesn't make sense from a physics standpoint, but it's cool and useful.
So this is kind of, I don't know, I wouldn't call it an issue I have with it, but it kind of just irked me because it felt like this game was being developed for the purpose of speedrunning, because that's exactly what speedrunning
absolutely
games
is
for. And like even the online mode is all about getting through things fast as possible, but that's not how I want to play this game. Like I don't want to try to get through this as fast as possible. Like I just want to enjoy the puzzles and enjoy the platforming and that kind of stuff. So I think that was one of my issues, that it really felt like this game is built for speedrunners trying to beat it as fast as possible, but that's not how a casual playthrough goes. So I was kind of annoyed that it felt like that.
I think it definitely is, and that's why they have those speedrun challenges. I think like speedrunner sickos are gonna be in love with this game, and I did try the speedrunning a bit.
There are like people that like to do that, and just like, because I mean, without getting to my overall experience of this game, like now that I'm done, I'm like, I'm not sure I'm gonna come back though. So it's like some people actually just like love to. I mean, I know they do. There's a lot of people that just love to just keep doing it to try to get a faster and faster.
Right, perfection, and that's fine. Like I'm totally cool with that, but just the scene. My problem was that it felt like it was kind of built around that idea, which is not how I like to play games.
It does seem like that's how it was started, but then they started to add in like more of a sci-fi story, but I always felt like they didn't go far enough in that direction.
Not even close.
Not
even close. Yeah.
Anything else you want to bring up about the gameplay, either of you?
I kind of touched on it, but the pacing was just length and pacing were my biggest problem. Like having one power for such a long time and then not introducing like the last mechanic that you get to like rotate the gravity. You don't get it until like 10 minutes or 20 minutes before the very end of the game, which is so bizarre because you spent the first like 5 hours with just
I think
one
it's like the
power.
last 2 stages maybe that have.
So that was a technical limitation. He addressed that in the interview I read. Basically, in order to design the levels for that mechanic, basically required him to like spend like 10 times as long designing those levels.
That makes sense. That totally makes sense. But it didn't like, I don't know, it didn't help the pacing of the game. It just felt so just not paced very well because of that.
I kind of found that to be, so just to explain further, there's an ability you get near the end of the game that basically allows you to rotate the world around you. So like you can do it twice in midair and then it resets when your feet touch the ground. So it kind of opens up the levels in a completely different way, whereas you could only go left to right and maybe climb things or go down. But, you know, with gravity, this rotates the world and shifts the gravity with the rotation so that you can basically go in any direction, like unhindered. It's a very cool mechanic and it's very well presented, but it's only in like the last 1 or 2 levels of the game.
I think it's 2 before the very last, I think you can use it.
Right. Yeah. So I wasn't happy about that.
Also, the length of the stages start off pretty like the time that it takes to beat one stage for me was pretty good up until like the last like third were like all kind of longer, like significantly. I felt like twice as long. I mean, it's fine, but like it's fine because you're not really like starting from the beginning. You can take off wherever you finished, but just for me, I was like, oh man, it's like longer and it's a bit anxiety inducing when you have to go through all these puzzles and know how much more like you have to do of the next thing, because that's kind of how the gameplay loop goes. Like you do like a puzzle and then you kind of like walk or run for like 30 seconds and jump around, and then it's like another puzzle shows up kind of thing.
That's touching on another kind of issue that I had was the traversal. I found it very repetitive. Just like in between the puzzles could just be doing the same thing over and over again, like climbing, sliding down, whatever, but for like a pretty significant amount of time. Like it's not like, there's like can be some long breaks in between these puzzles, which is, I think, normal. Like if it was a shorter game, I wouldn't have any issue with it. But because this game was so long, it felt like there were so many times where I'm just doing the exact same traversal over and over and over again. And while the scenery is cool to look at for the most part,
I was gonna say that's
I got really bored of the traversal eventually.
For me, I enjoyed controlling the characters so much that even just like running around, climbing around was just fun. Like I really enjoyed.
I understand that. Yeah, I understand that. I had that feeling only when there was like pressure. So like there's a few like, I wouldn't call them puzzles, but there's a few sequences where you're being chased, or like you have to move really quickly to get somewhere, to dodge being attacked or shot with a missile or something like that. And those were really fun. Like that felt like, okay, this is really cool. I really enjoy controlling the character. This time it was just the traversal for me. There was, I don't know.
I wish there was actually more of those sequences.
Me too.
Because those were really fun.
I was gonna say it could have been cool. The traversal could have been better if there was a bit more storytelling in the background or just something. It was like, I don't know if it was just completely abstract stuff happening, or it could have been like actual like clues, or just like
if there's something a little bit more to it
dropped in there. Yeah, when you're running around to see stuff, to kind of get an idea of like what the story is without telling you the story. That might have really made up for.
I understand what you mean.
All those empty spaces.
Yeah. I don't know if this is a vibe thing, but similar to that, it felt like a lot of the shit was just random. But I think we can talk about that in the vibe. Like it didn't feel like a lot of things didn't feel like they had purpose. Is kind of my issue with the traversal. Like it felt like it was thrown in there just to traverse. But
why don't we get into the vibe? And Phil, can you lead us on that?
Yeah. So the vibe is I mean, I haven't played like Limbo or really any of those other games, so for me, it's kind of like I don't really know.
Add
But
another one to the list. Another like classic game that Phil hasn't played.
it's felt like an HD pixel game, kind of like graphically, like really high fidelity pixel graphics, like really high contrast.
If
minimal,
you
but yeah,
if you follow the director or if you check out his Blue Sky posts, he has a shit ton of posts where it shows him like meticulously designing the levels for this game, like tiny pixel by tiny pixel by tiny pixel. Like
yeah, you can tell it shows.
Is very detailed.
Yeah, I was playing this on the OLED Steam Deck the entire time, and it looked like, you know what I mean. The contrast is amazing. The graphics are pretty like. I would like to see more of this. Let me say that I like the way it looks, and it really like vibrant and like pops out and visually stunning kind of vibe. And
sometimes
look, yeah. It could also be very drab at the same time because everything's gray. Besides like those really bright colors, it's basically just black and grays. So
I have a theory that that's probably a development time thing as well, that like, because you know, much like Limbo, there are parts of the levels that are completely like in shadow and darkness, and I wonder if that's a shortcut that they maybe overutilized a bit to reduce the amount of work it would have taken to put in all those details and pixels, because there are areas that are like, and certain like some backgrounds and some parts that are like, wow, that looks really cool, but they're not that prominent. They happen every now and then, but a lot of it is kind of just looks like pipes and machinery. Just
it's like you're like in a factory. Like I don't, you know, we'll talk about the story, but it's like I guess you're like in this factory or you're in this like lab. Like that was kind of my whole thing. Or you're in a body. I thought maybe you're like in an organism. You're like inside the organs of this like robotic monstrosity or something like that.
Yeah, it was kind of like a combination of kind of like steampunk mechanical stuff and organic shit as well, like mixed in at some points.
Fluid, lasers and ice and
yeah, they had some really cool stuff in there, but I don't know. For me, again, it was just like if this game had been half as long. If this game had been half as long, I would have really enjoyed the artwork. I would have just enjoyed this game significantly more. But the same art style throughout and seeing kind of like the same shit throughout playing it really like wore me down. I guess you could say I got really tired of it eventually, until finally, like after 6 or 7 hours, you finally get to like an ice world or something like that. It looks a little bit different. But up until then, though, it really looked very, very samey. And even after that, like it kind of gets very samey again. So I don't know. It was just the length for me on the vibe. But I did enjoy the way that it looked. I thought, like I said, screenshots like this as a like pieces of art would be awesome. If I can get a picture of some like one of these scenes printed and framed, I think it would be awesome. I would be happy with it. But playing through it as a game, I got like a bit tired of it.
It's also alone, you know, you're alone in this world. There's a couple of like audio tapes or something like that, and you're just kind of out there, and there's no music except for like the end, I think.
Yeah, that was another kind of
so
issue.
it could have had like some ambient music or even
it does have some I feel like ambient music in a few
I need to do music for some of these games, but I feel like there's so much room for exploration with like music in games. Like, you know what, I don't want to get on a tangent, but you know, RPGs, fantasy music, you get what I'm saying? Like they could have easily put some like ambient or like kind of electronic pumping music a bit here and there to really take it up.
It did have some good moments with music, but
they're really it's really just accenting certain parts, but it's not there's no like constant soundtrack going at all.
There's a lot of audio cues that are necessary to listen to, so that's kind of like, I get that you don't want to get in the way of, but that's why you could have like an ambient soundtrack
and the audio cues, like the sound effects, I think are top notch in this game. Like every effect and blast or explosion all sound great, I think. And that's probably Psycho Flow. That's probably their doing.
That all does work.
Really sound effects were great. Yeah, agreed.
Not only that, but the way that the all of the visual effects are presented too works really well. Just looks really nice, like the anti-gravity stuff, the teleporting mechanic. It's all presented in a very cool way.
I loved the bouncy lightsabers. Those were really fun.
Those are great.
Yeah.
They should make bouncy lightsabers. You hit somebody and it just bounce somewhere. What it does.
In the Star Wars universe, yeah.
Yeah. I was saying I was playing this on the train, so like I was like, I know someone's probably looking at me. I was on a Steam Deck on the train and standing in the middle of everybody, so I'm sure people are like, what is he playing?
I've never played my Steam Deck on the train.
One other issue though I had with the environments is that there were times where it was difficult to tell where the foreground and the background were.
Yeah, had that.
And I would leap like thinking I was going to land on something, and it wasn't actually there. It was in the background.
That's true.
So it's difficult to tell sometimes. Like, it didn't happen that often, but every now and then it was difficult to tell like where I was supposed to go because of that, or where I was supposed to land.
There were a few parts where I couldn't tell if like there's these items that will just explode if you touch them in the game, and there were times when there's very, very similar looking items that don't. And it was just very confusing. Like, what is going to explode and what's not when I touch it? Yeah. They really needed to like make that a little bit more clear.
Yeah. Basically the only way to find out is just to touch it and figure it out.
Yeah. Yeah.
A lot of trial and error.
Bit of a frustration on that part.
And same for like chase sequences, a lot of time they're happening so quickly, like you need to do it a few times to figure out what you need to do or where you're supposed to go or which direction or so I don't think there's probably very few people going through those on their first try. But still those I did enjoy the chase sequences though. But so my favorite part. Some of that visual stuff got in the way or wasn't quite clear on where to go, and your character is also very tiny on the screen too, which I think is intentional. But I found the game easier to... I played on Steam Deck a lot as well, but I found it much easier to play when I played it on a big screen.
Oh, really? Yeah. Okay.
I played it on my ultra wide quite a bit. That was cool.
I guess that would make sense with the movements, like being able to like see the precision of your movements and where you are and stuff like that. On a bigger screen would be easier, I think. I imagine.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, definitely helps.
Why don't we get into the story now? This game, as we've already mentioned a bit, is not very story dense. However, there is something going on. I can, explain what I went through and what I understood. I haven't been able to find any like definitive story, and the developer is actually like being purposefully like coy about what's going on, but he seems to have a clear idea of what's going on.
He doesn't know what's going on.
So you start out. I did read somewhere that like he's like, actually I found someone in a comment section on Steam that basically got it, like figured out the story. So somebody out there knows, and I searched for that and I couldn't. I'm not sure if I found it or not, but basically you start out as a scientist in a group of scientists in a lab, and you're researching a giant egg. Looks like some kind of, I don't know, could be anything really. I mean, just from the environment, you might assume it's like an alien egg or something like that, but some kind of explosion happens and then you get teleported into who knows where the hell you are. Like it could be an alien world, which is probably what you first think, but then as you make it, you work your way through the different worlds or different levels, you start to see things like giant robots in the background. Everything looks large, and like I said, your character is quite tiny.
So and it's obviously some kind of like abandoned or destroyed facility. Like everything's malfunctioning and fucked up.
Right.
Yeah.
And the only, aside from very little environmental storytelling, there are dead scientists who were in that room with you at the beginning that you come across throughout the game, and they have like a little data tablet next to them that gives you like a journal entry. It's weird because it it does that thing where like they all died while they were doing the journal entry, so their last sentence is just like
it's
cuts off. So I guess it was a voice activated journal entry or something, but yeah. So, but that drip feeds you basically. That's where you'll get most of the story bits, but it's also still very vague because it's not like exposition. It really is just like them talking about something that you don't know.
I guess it is implied, at least from my point of view, on some of those journal entries that they didn't die in the explosion like you didn't die, but they were alive afterwards, and then they died for some reason. We don't know what they were doing or what happened exactly, but they were alive afterwards because they talk about
like
this
what
happened,
this went wrong or something like that.
Well,
so yeah.
I mentioned earlier, like right after the, in the first like 10 seconds of the game, you turn on this switch. So you like wander through this weird area that you get teleported to. You're very slow and plodding like a normal human, I guess, and even worse than a normal human, I would say.
Yeah.
But then you flip a switch and this beam comes on and you get into the beam and it gives you superpowers for whatever reason. How you know that or why he knows that, I don't know. But that's when you gain all the like incredible mobility. So my guess is that the other scientists didn't have a switch and a beam, and maybe that's why they died, because the environments are very unfriendly. So it'd be an easy place to die if you don't have superpowers.
It kind of reminded me, what the hell was the name of that show? The one we all liked from HBO Max,
Scavenger's Reign.
Yeah, Scavenger's Reign. It kind of reminded me of that, but without, instead of animals, it's
cool
robots.
Creatures.
Yeah. It's like a factory where everything's trying to kill you, essentially.
Right. It's like there are no like enemies. They're just like mechanical stuff that's dangerous, basically. Yeah, exactly. Aside from a couple of like, turrets that aim at you. I guess that's the closest thing you get to like artificial intelligence.
You can't get a sense of like, is this even like like a factory, or is this like a defense system, or is it both? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it was kind of hard to tell.
From one of the most interesting log journals for me talked about how, with the amount of time that passed, traveling at the speed of light, you actually wouldn't be that far away from Earth. Like, you would be somewhere between the Earth and the moon, something like that. So obviously not that far, but clearly they're in a very, very different place. So it was kind of implying that they were either traveling faster than the speed of light, or, which I guess is, supposedly not possible to do. I don't know. I mean, obviously this is a fantasy world, who knows, but or they travel to a different dimension, something like that.
Well, did you notice there was a journal entry that mentioned that they still had access to laboratory Wi-Fi?
Wi-Fi, yeah, that's right. He didn't. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. That's the same. I think that's the same journal entry. Like we couldn't have gone that far, and I can still connect to the Wi-Fi, but this place is obviously not that distance from the Earth. It's much further, or somewhere else completely. So interesting.
So slight spoilers if anybody cares about the story, but at the very end of the game, it just kind of ends abruptly.
Right. Yeah.
But you're walking up this like giant robot arm, which looks really cool. You'll see it in screenshots and trailers for the game a lot. And a giant
Bucky pops out
and just looks at you, and then you fall over, and that's the end.
Twice. It happens twice. Like
the dog?
Where does it happen twice?
Did this not happen to you? I don't know what happened to me. Maybe something went wrong in my game. I'm not sure, but because my guy went up, and the dog came out, and then it rolled the credits, and then 10 seconds after the credits rolled, it went back to the guy climbing up the arm again. And then it happened again. And then the dog came out again. And then the credits rolled again. But this time, the credits rolled all the way.
Was there a difference? I don't think I saw that.
I think this might have been a bug. But there's one slight difference in that the first time it happened, the guy didn't stop at the edge of the cliff. He walked off of it and like fell off of it. And as he was falling, the dog head came out. And then
and then so what happened to me.
Maybe that was some kind of bug where he like died while the credits were rolling, so it reloaded the level.
That didn't happen to me.
And then the second time it happened, he did stop at the very edge.
You clearly hit the exchange button or the remote, whatever, the time stop or something.
No, I have no idea what happened. It was so bizarre. I thought that was intentional for a while. I thought it was like a joke.
I mean, it's possible I missed something in the credits, but I didn't. That didn't happen to me. He just
the dog is a complete throw up. That's the only organic thing you see in the entire game, actually.
Well, if you go back to the beginning of the game, the dog is in the laboratory and he's normal sized.
Really?
Okay,
I think he's your dog.
The intro like cutscene.
So you shrunk it down or something.
The very beginning, he's sitting next to you, the dog. So I think it's your dog.
Oh.
So that led me to think that you are still in the laboratory or inside of something in the laboratory.
You're just a lot smaller.
You're like in the experiment.
Right, like a Honey, I Shrunk the Kids kind of thing.
Yeah. Great movie.
Because there's also a robot in the laboratory that I think is the robot hand that you walk across. Like a lot of the stuff that's in that opening laboratory scene, I think is part of the level traversal that you go through. They
should have done a montage of like something like, because I didn't remember anything from the first scene like at all.
Like a Usual Suspects reveal at the end.
Yeah, just like maybe they could have gone through like just a clip of like showing where you started out and maybe like a highlight of the level.
You mean make it a little bit more clear? I mean,
reference it a bit like at the end of credits or something like that. It could have been.
That's probably my biggest complaint for the game is that the story, it's too vague.
Yeah.
And they barely drip feed you anything throughout. And I think you touched on it, Phil, that if they had woven that in a bit more, it would have helped with the pacing. Because I feel like it's trapped between playing like even Super Meat Boy has story, but like it's trapped between that kind of like hardcore,
like no story,
like speedrunner, platformer, like level based, just going through. But at the same time, it also wants to be like a Limbo style, like deeper, environmental storytelling.
It's got a clear theme, and like kind of story there,
Yeah. No, I agree.
But I think it's not. I don't think it goes far enough in that direction to keep you engaged with what's going on. Like I am curious. I want to know what the story is, but I don't even feel like there's enough there to go on.
Agreed. Yeah, and I feel like the length of I keep saying this, but I feel like the length of the game just made it worse. I feel like the length, if it had been shorter, it would have been much kind of easier to process what could have been happening or think about it. But because it was so long, by the time it was over, I was like, okay, I just want to finish this.
Yeah, I was done, and I kind of didn't care, like.
Right,
but exactly. I wanted to.
Like, there's been such little story given to you that it's just like, okay, I'm never gonna figure this out. This game is going on for 10 hours. I've gotten through like 3 or 4 journal entries at most. I don't know what the hell is going on. So I'm fine for it to just end now. Didn't really want to think about it.
Which is kind of a shame because it's like, hey, you got like one chance. For me, I'm not going to pick it up again. It's like some games have too little, like maybe Dark Souls or something like that. But they give you, I think, enough to really, you know what I mean? Like there's with
Dark Souls, you can go into the items and read the item descriptions if you want.
It's definitely a drip feed, I guess, in Dark Souls, but there's a lot of it. Like you get a lot of drips, like a ton of them.
And you also can like engage with it as much as you want. Like if you're really interested, you can get deep into it. If you're not, you can just play through it. But there's like, there's a very linear game. It's not like there's areas where you can go and explore and find journal entries or items that would explain more or find secret areas that would explain. There's nothing there. And I think maybe if you pay more attention and like, I don't know, I'd have to check, but I don't think there was a way to go back and read the data entries or anything, but maybe they make sense if you look at them all together. There are people out there online trying to make sense of the story, but I couldn't find much official info on it.
Yeah.
But Maybe they're saving it for a sequel. Who knows?
Huh. Yeah, I mean, if we always, give great advice to devs on this podcast, I feel like, and I hope all the devs of these games are listening to us because we always tell them how to make their games awesome. And this, for me, just make it 4 or 5 hours long. Do the same thing you just did. Make it 4 or 5 hours long. Give a little bit more story. Boom! You got like a masterful game that I would love.
Yeah, it's almost like they could have, like, I don't want to say it's like too much quantity, really, but like they could have done a little bit more quality, and I think that would have been a better overall experience.
That's exactly the problem. It's quantity over quality, I think. I mean, obviously the art style and all that is great. Like, it looks cool. It's just too much of it, too long. Blah 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 blah.
I'm the outsider here, where if it was longer, I would still play more because I like the gameplay.
Wow.
Yeah. No, I'm the outsider here, but this is a popular game in general.
It is, yeah, and I don't know. For me, it felt like, what are the other ones we played? Like Roller Drome, a few others, where it just felt like this game really makes for great marketing, but and for me, just the actual experience of it wasn't all that fun. I wouldn't say I had that much fun with it, except for a few moments. There were some awesome parts to it, but.
It makes you think there's a whole market for like half promotional games, like marketable games. Like, you just got to come up with a couple like concepts, key things to market to like really.
Dark was another one. DARQ.
Dark. The
Dark.
Sun
I thought of Dark when I played this a bit.
Yeah.
Children of the Sun.
Yeah.
Children
of the Sun was Children of the Sun was another one.
Yeah. And the mechanics are kind of like Dark, so I thought about Dark when I was playing it. And also like the similar like vague story, but I felt even Dark had like a bit more thematic. I don't know. I mean, very similar, I guess, but like maybe it was shorter, or maybe it had just like a bit more thematic stuff to.
I think Dark's environmental storytelling was probably a bit better, but it didn't really have any like journal entries or anything direct.
Or you knew he was at least in a dream or something like that. Like, you at least knew.
That's true. That had a very vague story.
Yeah.
What was your best or worst moment from Bionic Bay? Let's start with Phil.
Oh, dude, worst moment. Oh, actually, best. I think I had a couple like really fun deaths that I actually laughed out loud.
Yeah,
like, it's fun
true.
Watching myself die.
It's where you're like falling really quickly, or like you just dive into a wall or something and you just die. That was great.
Yeah, the ragdoll like physics make dying pretty funny. No. Or like accidentally exploding and just getting launched.
So
like some of those like things that spin really quickly if you just like fuck up a jump and they just like go flying. It was really fun.
You just get cut in half. So watching my guy die was fun. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah,
for me.
I kind of wish there was a little bit of like gore. Like he would explode or something.
Blood.
Be pretty brutal.
How about for you, Matt?
No, I didn't really have one. I try to think of one.
No worst moment, or just a lot of them?
Not really. It was just like, the thing is like, it's hard to call this a bad game. It's just the fact that it was so long that really frustrated me, and like repetitive. So like everything was good and short. Like, if the game had just been short, it would have been really good, I think. So it's hard to pick a moment that was bad. It was a quality game. They always put a lot of effort into it. And they put too much effort into it in some sense. Like, they just made it too long.
Well, do you consider this like, if you played it like because I'm thinking we did it like in maybe a time frame, but if like you pick it up, you do one level like here a week or something.
So that's the thing. Like, I think out of all of us, I played it over the longest amount of time too, which may have affected my opinion of it too. Like, I started it quite a while ago, and I played it in bits and pieces.
That's true. No, I think having the deadline of doing the podcast. I mean, I didn't play it in like 2 days or anything like that. I played it over the course of
2 days.
Phil played it in like 2 days. I played it over the course of maybe 2 or maybe 3 weeks.
For me, worst moment, and maybe you guys will remember this area. This was the part that frustrated me more than any other area. Was there's a certain level where there are these orbs, like spheres, that
are you're talking about.
The gravity ones.
They have their own gravity, and you have to like jump on them and then run around them.
Yeah.
And then jump to the next one, but there's like a laser thing coming around that you have to like dodge and move under and time it correctly, but because your gravity follows the orb, also the direction that you control the character changes. Like
right.
So like if you're at the top of the orb, then you have to hold left to continue around the orb, but then you have to change to down, and then you have to change to right. But the timing of when you need to do that is very difficult to figure out, and you're under like time pressure to get it correctly. So that was super tricky and annoying for me, and I don't ever really like when games do that, because it's not the first game to do that, but it is one of the only games I've ever played that does that with such a time constraint and rushing you in order to do it.
Yeah.
A lot of games will like flip the gravity. Oh, now left is left, right, or left is right, right is left.
But you're not doing something like really hard at the same time.
Right. Yeah. They usually take it easy on you because they know like they're fucking with your brain, and this is doing that, and just, like, get good and do it. Like, and it's hard. And
there are
also
things,
just to say that's one of those areas where like the restart, the respawn is a little bit further back. So like if you do get past like 2 of them, there's like 1 more, and if you die at that one, you've got to do them all over again. And that was one of the times where I felt like I was going to put my Steam Deck through the wall.
Yeah, I had a few puzzles like that were just very, very frustrating. There's one where you're on the left side, you're trying to go to like the far right side, and there's like a bunch of shit in between that's floating in space, and you have to like press a button, and then they all gravitate towards the ice ball, and if anything touches the ice ball, it turns into ice, and there's a bunch of ice bombs mixed in as well, and like electrical things. And you have to like stop time, and like you have to like move the things towards you, but then stop time and then jump and then like make a pathway towards it. That one was really frustrating for me. There's a couple like that were really frustrating, where you had to like press a button and like make things go a direction and like freeze them and try to make them create a pathway that
because everything is so heavily physics based. It's like there's a randomness to everything that makes it difficult.
I was gonna say I do like that you can kind of, it seems like several of the puzzles you could do like just in different ways. Like there's not like a one way to do it. Like you can just it seems like there's kind of one way, but you can just kind of like almost
I'm sure if you watched some speed runs, you'd probably find some crazy methods of getting through these levels that you didn't even think of, right?
I do not want to go back and do some of them. Like I said, there's at least 5 of them. I think I just died, and it like preceded me anyway. And I was like, all right, cool.
Yeah, I had ones that I just lucked my way through. Like, okay, I made it to the checkpoint. Whew. Well, is this a limited lives game, and do you recommend it, Matt?
My answer to both is just no. Unfortunately, it's too long, and that's also why I don't recommend it. But I think that they could come out with a sequel or another one or a similar game and just make it shorter, and it could be really awesome. Like this game had potential to be really, really good if it had just been half as long.
All right. How about you, Phil?
I think it could be a limited. It's like right on that like the line. Humanity or some other games we played. It's just right on the line of not being. Kind of is. I beat it in under 10 hours, so in that way, it could be a limited lives game, and it's cut up into little short 15-20 minute stages, so potentially it could be a limited lives game. I think if you play it over a course of time and you're not rushing through it. And do I recommend it? I think it looks cool, and it's one of those things I'm glad I played, and I struggle to say definitely would recommend it, but I think if it's on sale, I will definitely check it out. I think it's a cool, unique game that's got some interesting things going for it, and I think it's got a lot of potential to be even sharpened up and better if they really spice it up a bit.
Whether it's a limited lives game or not, it's kind of like, I feel like it's right on the edge. I mean, yeah, you can beat it in under 10 hours. You could also play it in chunks, and it has that speedrunning. If you're into speedrunning, it's definitely a good game for you. It's built around that, and there's a lot of like small challenges that you can play. Just jump in for like 5-10 minutes. One of the cool things I didn't mention before is when you do the speed running, you get to design your own scientist, and you
you see the ghosts of everyone else.
Right. Yeah. There's a bunch of them. I think it'll show you like 6 or 7 at a time, and everybody's all running at the same time. So when you see like we were talking about how it's funny when you explode or get knocked into something, you just start seeing scientists all get flung around the course. So it's pretty funny and hectic. But yeah, I enjoyed it overall. I do think it's not without its, flaws, and I think it could definitely be improved upon. A little bit more story, not focus, but just give us a little something to pace things out a bit. And yeah, maybe shortening it up would help that if you paced it out correctly. I think it depends on what you want to get out of the game, but yeah, that's going to do it for this episode. Thanks for listening. Our next game is going to be A Short Hike, which is a happy little game where you play as a birdie. So if you need to reach us, you can find us on Blue Sky and Instagram at Limited Lives Cast. We are also on X at Limited Lives Pod, or YouTube at Limited Lives TV. And you can email us at limitedlivescast@gmail.com. And remember, every gaming moment is a chance for greatness.